and basically Judaized, which means converted them to for lack of a better term, Judaism. So he had sons that ruled after him. Actually, I take that back. He had a brother that, well, no, a son that ruled after him.
You said John Hyrcanus?
John Hyrcanus. His son was named Alexander Janus, which is Janneus. And so his two sons began to reign after him, but there was a civil war that happened amongst them. And what happened was you had Antipater, the father of Herod. He was influencing Hyrcanus the second. So I'm gonna read in this study Bible here, and also I have Josephus.
I got it right here. If you already pulled it.
Oh, you had the Josephus, beautiful. So I had the Josephus too that I was going to reference to. I'll just start right now with this study Bible, and this is the Hasmonean. This is the Hasmonean section. I just get straight to it. Just to give you a little backdrop. So this is the Hasmoneans. This is let's see here. I want to get to a good place. Before John Hyrcanus died in 104 BC, the borders of the state had been extended on every side. The Maccabean struggle was long past and new rivalries developed. The older Hellenists were discredited, but their ideas were perpetuated in the parties of the Sadducees. The Orthodox of Maccabean times became the Pharisees of pre-Christian Judaism in the New Testament. So you had the people who basically, were proponents for Hellenism were the Sadducees, and the people who were really stringent about the law, they were the Pharisees. Ironically enough, which we're going to read, you had the people that were of the Maccabean lineage that were, Sadducees or Hellenists. Right? So it says Hyrcanus was devout and law abiding, but his children had little sympathy with traditional Hebrew thought. They numbered themselves among the aristocrats, and which we know the Sadducees were basically the Jewish party for the upper class. Right. They numbered themselves among the aristocrats, and they came to look with disdain on the rigidly Orthodox Pharisees.
Question.
Yeah.
Going into those Sadducees, going into how they were children of aristocrats, does that somehow link into them believing that they were pretty much descendants of Zadok? Like a high-ranking family of Aaron, pretty much.
That I'm not quite sure, but I know that's where they got their name, Zadok. I know they got the name Pharisees. Not Pharisees, Sadducees from Zadok.
Okay.
So is it possible? Yes, because you have to remember the Maccabees were Levites. You know what I'm saying? So when you say upper class, that could very well be going into like you're saying.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Come.
So good question. It says ironically, the heirs of the Maccabees became thoroughly Hellenized. The death of John Shalom. The death of John Hyrcanus precipitated a dynasty struggle among his children. His elderest son, who preferred his Greek name Aristobulus, and keep that name in mind because that name you're gonna hear that name several times. Not this particular character, but just that name. Aristobulus.
Okay, Aristoteles.
Aristobulus, like Aristobulus.
Okay, gotcha.
Aristobulus. Hopefully I'm saying it right. And his eldest son, which is John Hyrcanus' son, who preferred his Greek name Aristobulus to his Hebrew name Judah, emerged a victor and threw 3 of his brothers into prison, 2 of whom are thought to have starved to death. and another brother was murdered in the palace. In his short reign of but 1 year, Aristobulus pushed the borders of Judea north to Mount Lebanon and took the title of king. His life was cut short, however, by drink, disease, and haunting fear of rebellion. So, the eldest son ended up dying of John Hyrcanus, who basically pronounced himself as the first king of Judea. At the time of Aristobulus' death, he had but one living brother, and he was in prison. Although his Hebrew name was Jonathan, his history knows him by his Greek name Alexander Jannaeus. Under Jannaeus, the policy of territorial expansion continued. The frontiers of Judea were extended along the Philistine coast towards the Egyptian frontier and the Trans-Jordan region. The Jewish state approximated the territory controlled by Israel in the days of David and Solomon. So under the Hasmonean dynasty, we were able to expand our borders to basically what we was controlling during the time of David and Solomon, man. Which was was great for us because, man, we was under control of the not only the Ptolemaic Empire first, if you want to get technical, but the Seleucid Empire, man. And also, before that, we was under subjection of the Persians, the Medes, Persians, tomato, and also Babylon. So here in the Hasmonean dynasty, man, we was able to make a great military event, frontiers where we would take over different coasts and things of that nature. And also we subdued the as I was saying earlier, the Idumeans, man, which ended up being to our detriment, as we'll read later on. And let me jump down.
Where you read from?
Sorry about that. This is the King James Study Bible.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like a commentary?
Yeah, it's like a commentary, and it's like basically between the testaments is giving like what was going on, between the Old Testament and New Testament.
Kind of.
You know what I'm saying?
Like in the time where the Apocrypha in between years. There you go. So and this now what we're going into the Hasmonean dynasty. This was this is after the Maccabean revolt, in which we were able to basically be an independent state. You know what I'm saying? We were able to take over the Syrians, which was really synonymous with this Seleucid Empire, and make pacts with different nations, chiefly with Rome. You know what I'm saying? So, let me jump down because it's right now. It's going to give some accomplishment of Alexander Jannaeus, and I jump down to when he died. So soon. Now this is going to his mother and how she reigned a little bit. Now this is not his mother but his wife. Excuse me. Now this is Salome Alexander had been married successfully to Aristobulus and to Alexander Jannaeus, the widow of two Hasmonean rulers. She reigned in her own right for 7 years. She was a woman of 70 when she came to the throne, dividing royal responsibilities between her two sons. Hyrcanus, the older son, became high priest, and his brother Aristobulus, which is Aristobulus II, received the military command. Her brother Simon ben Shita was a leader among the Pharisees. And this fact may have disposed her to keep peace between the opposing factions of Judaism. So her brother was a Pharisee, in which we know that the Pharisees and Sadducees will constantly warn one another for power. And so she was able to make a pact and have peace while she was reigning in those 7 years. But after she died, you had Hyrcanus II and Aristobulus basically the second. They began to war with one another under the influence of the Idumean Antipater. Now Antipater is the father of who? Herod the Great. And so Herod the Great and Antipater was able to basically maneuver in there and take over the Hasmonean dynasty, which we'll read more on. You see what I'm saying? But before that, just I want to grab a scripture. Sirach 12. What's that? 12 and never trust thy enemy.
12 and 10.
12 and 10. I thought so. I just didn't pull the trigger.
Okay. Sirach chapter 12 and 10. Never trust thine enemy.
Right.
For like his iron rusted, so is his wickedness.
Because Antipater was the advisor of who? Hyrcanus II, the older brother of, the older sibling of Simone Alexandra. You see what I'm saying? And he was able to get into their ear and basically have them war with one another. But if you read in Josephus, they were trying to keep it civil, which will touch on that. They were like, look, let's just keep it civil. But Antipater, he was like, look, man, Aristobulus is trying to take you over. You need to war against him. And that caused basically fighting, man, to where the Romans had to intervene. All right, which I don't want to go too far, but just reading back into this.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
You said he was the advisor of who?
Of Hyrcanus. Hyrcanus. On the board. And so let's go to that precept right quick.
It says, never trust thine enemy, Sirach 12 and 10, for like his iron rusted, so is his wickedness. Verse 11. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed.
That's right.
And beware of him.
That's right. So though he humble himself, take good heed, man. And that's what we really should have done during the Hasmonean dynasty. You see what I'm saying? Because if they would have really just banded together, that dynasty would have lasted longer. Now we know it was all because the will of the Heavenly Father. But because of the influence of that Idumean, that Edomite, there was a war that broke out. You see what I'm saying? So let's jump back to this, and I'm still in the this study Bible here, and I read it. It says, when his mother died, actually let me read up from let me read up just a little bit. Oh, you fine. It says, I want to, actually, I'll read a little bit more on Simon ben Siak, and then it'll flow into the beef with Hyrcanus and Aristobulus. It says, under Alexandria, these Pharisees had their opportunity to make a constructive contribution to Jewish life. In many areas, particularly education, they were eminently successful. Under the presidency of Simon ben Siak, the Sanhedrin, the Jewish Council of State, decreed that every young man should be educated. A comprehensive system of elementary education was inaugurated so that the largest villages, towns, and cities of Judea would produce a literate, informed people. This education was centered in the Hebrew Scriptures. The wounds of earlier strife was not healed during Alexandria's reign. Although the Pharisees were happy in their newfound recognition, the Sadducees were resentful of the fact that they had lost power. To compound the problem, the Pharisees sought to advance the massacre of their leaders by Alexander Jannaeus. And before Alexander had died, You know, he was actually a Sadducee and had like 800 Pharisees crucified. So there was always beef that was going on between the Sadducees and the Pharisees. That was like drew blood.
That's a war. He killed 400.
No, he killed 800.
Oh, 800. Yeah, that's a war.
Yeah, he killed about 800 800 of them. You know, but when, like I said, when he died, you know, his sister brother was a Pharisee, so they put him in basically you know, the arena of the Jewish council of state, to where he was able to, like I said, remodel education, things of that nature. So there was some beef, but that resentment was still there. You see what I'm saying? So when she died, Alexandria died, that's when you really see that seeing that conflict heightened between basically her sons, man, Hyrcanus and Aristobulus, which I'll read about it for you brothers. The wounds of earlier strife was not healed during Alexandria's reign. Although the Pharisees were happy in their newfound recognition, the Sadducees were resentful of the fact that they had lost power. To compound the problem, the Pharisees sought to avenge the massacre of their leaders by Alexander Jannaeus. Sadducean blood was split in the making of another civil war were in the air. These Sadducees found in Aristobulus, the younger son of Janus in Alexandria, the man that could support as Alexandria's successor. He was exiled, and he was a soldier and appealed to the party that dreamed of imperial expansion and worldly power. Hyrcanus, the older brother and rightful heir, was acceptable to the Pharisees. With the death of Alexandria, the partisans of the two sons were ready for a showdown. When his mother died, Hyrcanus, who had been serving as high priest, succeeded to the throne, but his brother Aristobulus led an army of Sadducees against Jerusalem. So there you go. As soon as the mother died, you had the two sons. What they trying to do? They were trying to gain power. You know, and this summarizes what happens between those two. You know, but I really would want to get this a more detailed account in the book of Josephus for you guys, and just read that for y'all. If I hope I'm making sense. I know there's a lot of information that's coming out. Yeah. Do I need to slow down, or just let me know, because I will. Because I know it's a lot of info that
Just some names, really.
Yeah, I wish.
Brothers gotta do their own independent studying and the names just to get it for yourself.
Con. And I could write it down for you guys, and even, you know, have it like, you know, put in that post production when brother post it up. If that'll make it, you know, easier for bros to understand it. Let's see here. What's a good start? Let's see a good start for y'all. Let's see here. So I had it written down. Let's see. I'll find it. Let's anticipator. Well, hey, if brothers can grab what's that? 1 Corinthians 6:1. Because this is a cut to the Herodean Dynasty too. Because we were going basically to the heathen to fix our problems, when we really should have been fixing our own problems, man. You know, but that caused a lot of problems by listening to that Edomite, man.
I got it right here if you want.
Go ahead, Doc.
This is 1 Corinthians 6:1. It says, "Dare any of you, having a matter against another, go to the law before the unjust, and not and not before the saints. And not, I'm sorry, I'm gonna read it again because he's asking a question. Dare any of you having a matter against another go to the law before the unjust and not before the saints?
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. Hey. So when there's a problem, we supposed to be able to fix that problem according to our laws, statutes, and commandments. You see, but the problem with our people is we were trying to rule like the heathen and handle situations like the heathen. That's why you had this infightings. That's why you had the guy even Aristobulus. He killed his own family members just to obtain that that kingdom, man. Just like the Greeks and the Romans. You see, and that really led to our downfall because we were following out the way of the customs of the heathen. Even with our the structure of our government. Did you have something, bro?
I was trying to find something real quick just to see if it'll tie into what you're saying.
That word unjust in the Greek is adikos. And then when you go down to the lexicon, it says, for this particular verse, it says, in this sense, according to Jewish speech, the Gentiles are called the unjust. The heathen. This is actually, like you said, the heathens, like the Romans at this time. Like, because you had, like what Michael was going into, alluding to the time of Yahushua, you had the scribes and the Pharisees that was going to, to this pretty much to the Romans for guide and for help in certain scenarios and situations. So that's a cut right there.
That's right. Brother, did you have something you want to bring out?
No, if you were looking at Josephus, I might have the chapter you look for. I don't know.
God, I have it right here. I was in the wrong section. But what did you have?
In the Antiquities of Josephus.
Well, I'm saying what
Alexandria, by gaining the goodwill of the Pharisees, retained the kingdom 9 years, having done many glorious actions. Going to
So
Aristobulus
who was that again? I'm sorry.
and Antiquities.
No, I'm saying like who had gained that power? Boom, right here.
Well, I didn't have it highlighted. I just looked it up in the index.
No, I'm saying like I didn't hear the name that you had said. You said the name, but I didn't hear the name.
It's like you said Alexander or something.
You
Yeah.
said
Aristobulus too.
Yeah, Aristobulus and
Let's read it.
it says in Antiquities chapter 16. It says how Alexandria, by gaining the goodwill of the Pharisees, retained the kingdom 9 years, and then having done many glorious actions, died.
Hey, can you go to chapter 14?
That was what you was just going into, right? And that the fighting started after, really even hard after she died.
Yeah.
Alexandra Salome. Okay, yeah.
Alexander Salome. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You in chapter 16, huh?
Josephus, Antiquities, book 13, chapter 16.
Oh, okay. Book 13.
13, chapter 16.
Chapter 16.
Okay, so I'm in 14, starting chapter 1.
Yeah. How Alexandra, by gaining the goodwill of the Pharisees, retained the kingdom 9 years, and then having done many glorious actions, died. Because her brother, Alexandria Salome's brother, was pretty much down with the Pharisees.
He was a Pharisee.
But one of the brothers, wasn't John Arcanus' brother, down with the Sadducees?
Yep.
Yeah. So there was a bunch of infighting that was taking place.
Hey, can you go to chapter 14 and start at 1?
Book 13, chapter 14.
No,
Book 14.
Chapter 1. Let's go into what we're talking about.
And who did you say had like 800 Pharisees killed? Who was that?
That's Alexander Janus.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Did you want me to read?
Go to. It's kind of weird how it's. Go to the point 3. It says how it says chapter 1 and it says 1, 2, and then 3. Go to 3.
Okay. Point 3 says that they may entertain the knowledge. Is that it?
No,
It just says, but there was a certain friend of Hyrcanus and Idumean.
Yeah, like paragraph 3. Yeah.
Paragraph
But
3,
there
basically.
was a certain friend of Hyrcanus, an Idumean called Antipater, who was very rich, and in his nature an active and seditious man.
That's right.
Man.
That's right. So he was a a seditious man. We just read
Right.
in what's in Sirach how you're not supposed to trust your enemy, man. In that same chapter, it goes into will a man pity a snake charmer,
Right. Right.
and that's our people who lying in bed with basically the enemy, man. Go ahead, Al.
Sirach chapter 12 and 12. Set him not by thee. On finish verse 11. It says, though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away. Set him, verse 12, not by thee, lest when he hath overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place.
And that's exactly what happened. Lest he overthrown, he stand in our place. After we was taken down, his son, Antipater, his son, was who? Herod. Herod was crowned the king of the Jews. And the reason why is because they were able to make certain pacts and deals with the Roman Empire. But it all started with Antipater and him inciting a civil war between Hyrcanus and Aristobulus. Hyrcanus II and Aristobulus II, man. And again, Hyrcanus was a proponent for the Pharisees, and for the Sadducees it was Aristobulus. You see, so they were warned with who was supposed to be the rightful ruler of Judea at that time. And you had Hyrcanus. He was using Antipater as basically his advisor. Which proves to be to his downfall, or our downfall. Go ahead, Hop.
It says, neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat.
Don't let him sit at your right hand.
Advisor. That's
Be
heavy.
your advisor.
I remember we was studying on that, bro. That's heavy, bro.
Salaki.
Esau, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm just speaking as a man, bro. Like, I don't know, like, Antipater, man, he got that spirit of Haman on him, bro.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
He got
Well,
that
I was
spirit of
reading
Haman
it. I
on
was
him,
thinking the
bro.
same thing, bro.
Like Haman literally did the same thing because he was in deep with the Persians and really try to overtake the Persians so the Greek Empire can come through.
He's like the second, pretty much, Persian king.
And Antipater was in real deep with Rome. You know what I'm saying? And that was his whole motive was to overthrow the Hasmonean kingdom so that the Herodian dynasty could now be established through particular bloodlines, because he was intermarrying in with different with Hasmonean queens.
He was.
And Nabatean women. That's why Herod the Great, I'd rather say, and then the other Herods going down.
The Tetrarch.
Like they didn't look like just Edomites.
Right.
They were kind of like dark skinned.
They were
dark
mingled
skinned
in.
men.
They look like Jake.
That's heavy, man.
Yep.
That's why Yahweh Shah called Herod
He called him
Fox.
Fox. Yeah. Like, that's why they said the wheat and the tares were together, because at that time you had people, man, bro.
And that's also why John the Baptist.
Customs too.
Yeah.
Jews.
That's also why John the Baptist pretty much used the law against him when he found out that he was committed adultery with Herodes. You know what I'm saying?
His
with
brother's Philip's wife.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. I believe her name was Herodes, right? That was her name. Herodias. You know what I'm saying? And he got mad at that, but pretty much he looked like a Jake. He was trying to, quote unquote, keep the laws, but he was being a hypocrite. And John the Baptist got at him,
Yep.
It says, neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And thou at the last word remember my words and be pricked therewith. Who will pity a charmer
Wow.
that is bitten with a serpent?
That goes right into it. That's heavy.
That's right. Who's gonna pity that man? No one.
Damn.
You see what I'm saying? Because we're gonna read, but basically, Antipater was playing both sides. He was going and saying, "Hey man, you need to watch out for cranes, man. He's trying to take you over. He's gonna stop this. You need to watch out for Aristobulus, man. He's trying to take you over. He'll go to Aristobulus. Hey man, you need to watch out for John Cranes. I mean, not John, but Cranes, bro. He trying to take you over. You know what I'm saying? Playing both sides." To eventually to where, when the Romans came up, he was kissing so much ass that he was made governor. His son was made governor over Galilee, man.
Mm-hmm.
You see? Go ahead, Doc.
It says, "Are any such as come not wild beasts? So one that goeth to a sinner and is defiled with him in his sins, who will pity?"
That's right. So who's gonna pity a man to take on the ways of a sinner? A lot of people have done that, nationally speaking. And that's why we was taken down. Dudes operating like heathens towards one another, going to war with one another and shit. It's really we could have just been at peace and just follow the laws and what the laws say.
Mm-hmm.
The older shit around.
Our people was going off.
We were going off,
bro.
We were going off. We were ruling, but we were going off.
Tripping.
We were going off.
The Lord wasn't with us at all.
No.
The Lord was not with us back then, bro. Damn.
He was letting us rule for a minute though.
Mm-hmm.
If you look into the Hasmonean dynasty,
Yeah.
we were going hard, bro.
Yeah.
We were able to take over basically the territory that King Solomon had at the time.
Mm-hmm.
We had the Idumeans under subjection.
Mm-hmm.
We had some cities of the Arabians, Nabateans.
Mm-hmm. Same man.
You know what I'm saying? Under subjection. And that's really how, and because of that expansion that we done, that's really they used that as an incentive for the Arabians to come and help basically take over the kingdom. Like, look, we'll give you back 12 cities.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. And even too, like with like you said, the point that you're making as well, and what is it, John the 4th chapter, where the Samaritan woman.
Yeah.
It's because at that time during the Hasmonean dynasty, when they was taking over those different parts of the land, like with the Edomites and the Nabateans and the Ereteans and these different nations that was round about, John Hyrcanus and his sons, mainly was John Hyrcanus, but he made them submit to pretty much following the law, statutes, and commandments. They had to submit to it. That's why you had certain nations over time in Yahushua's time that was following the law. They was like, well, we good, because they had got pretty much forced over to, as they would call, quote unquote, Judaism.
Judaized.
Yeah, and that was through Jake though.
Mm-hmm. That
They
was Jake.
making everybody just submit to the ways of the law. But I mean, we wasn't really following the law like that. It's heavy.
Very interesting. Hey, can we go back to that in the Book of Equity?
Pick up where I left off.
Please.
It says, Antipater, who was very rich and in his nature an active and a seditious man, who was at enmity with Aristobulus, and had differences with him on account of his goodwill to Ecranus.
Remember, Ecranus is his brother. So basically what it's saying is, he had aught with Aristobulus. And in the study Bible, it says that the reason why he had aught with him is because he seen him as a threat.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying versus Hyrcanus, he basically was using Hyrcanus as a tool to get what he wanted.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Doc.
It says, it is true that Nicolaus of Damascus says that Antipater was of the stock of the principal Jews who came out of Babylon into Judea. But that assertion of his was to gratify Herod, who was his son, and who, by certain revolutions of fortune, came afterwards to be king of the Jews.
That's right. So he's like, basically what he's saying is that he esteemed to put his son, in a good place, but the dude wasn't no Jake. He wasn't no Babylonian.
Now, was his mother one of the ones that came out of that exile that it going into?
That I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
But he was an Edomite, bro.
Yeah.
He was an Edomite.
He was pretty much saying like that he was of the stock of the Jews that came out of the Babylonian captivity.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now Herod the Great's mother was a Jake.
Yeah, right.
But Antipater, nah.
Okay.
That's
Definitely.
That's an Edomite, bro.
I didn't know if he was trying to imply, because them so-called Jews used today that they come from their mother. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if he was trying to imply that his mother came from that exile and everything.
Well, you got to think too. The records at that time was all destroyed.
Right.
So it's like I know it was just like the records got destroyed. So it's like you really couldn't prove. You know, you could say like, yeah, well, we came out of captivity.
Yeah.
And that, well, at that time, if you had the register, you'd be like, well, you would look down the family line and be like, oh, well, nah, you ain't. You know what I'm saying? But
So he was just
Devil
making,
was
he was just making some shit up.
He tried to sneak it in there.
Devil, man. That's, shut up, man.
But no, I mean,
Damn.
this is Josephus is a sellout J.
Right, of course.
Cool,
Yeah, he
bro.
sure
You know what I'm
is.
saying?
He sure is.
But if you look at like most historians, they refer to Antipater and even Herod as a Dumian or Edomite.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So
that's crazy. That's
go
dope.
ahead, Doc.
But that assertion of his was to gratify Herod, who was his son, and who, by certain revolutions of fortune, came afterwards king of the Jews.
Hey, real quick, the brother got something. Brother Gabash got something.
It was just something, you know, when you go into the word Herod in the blue letter, you know, and it's going through the line of the Herods, it said the name, or it says the name of a royal family that flourished among the Jews in the times of Yahushua and the apostles. Herod the Great was the son of Antipater of Idumea.
That's right. So he was a Dumian. Edom, aka Edomite. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Doc.
It says, whose history we shall give you in its proper place hereafter. However, this Antipater was at first called Antipas, and that was his father's name also, of whom they relate this, that King Alexander and his wife made him general of all Idumea, and that he made a league of friendship with those Arabians and Gazites and Ascalonites that were of his own party, and had by many and large presents made them his fast friends.
and that Alexander was a J. That's why
God,
it says
Alexander. That's
Is that Janice?
Yeah.
yeah. That's Janice.
Okay.
That's Janice.
Mm-hmm. And made him his general.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Go ahead, Doc.
But now this young Antipater was suspicious of the power of Aristobulus, and was afraid of some mischief he might do him, because of his hatred to him. So he stirred up the most powerful of the Jews, and talked against him to them privately, and said that it was unjust to overlook the conduct of Aristobulus, who had gotten the government unrighteously and ejected his brother out of it, who was the elder, and ought to retain what belonged to him by prerogative of his birth.
So he's basically saying he went to each basically higher up or upper class I guess lack of a better term what's the word I'm looking for? Aristocrats. But I wanted something in like in particular. I guess the people who had the power at the time. Nobles, thank you. Nobles at the time, and basically was like, look, Aristobulus really going off, man, because his brother's supposed to be reigning. You know, because of the birthright. Mm-hmm. That's what he said, prerogative of his birthright. And according to birthright, who's supposed to get the firstborn?
Get the inheritance.
Who's supposed to get the inheritance?
Firstborn.
Dang, that's my going hard, man.
Go ahead, Doc.
In the same speeches he perpetually made Hyrcanus, and told him that his own life would be in danger unless he guarded himself and got quit of Aristobulus. For he said that the friends of Aristobulus omitted no opportunity of advising him to kill him, as being then, and not before, sure to retain his principality.
So you had Antipas basically saying, look, his Aristobulus partners is you know, giving him the green light to go kill you, man. So you need to watch out. You need to guard yourself. That induced a civil war. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Doc.
Hyrcanus gave no credit to these words of his, as being of a gentle disposition, and one that did not easily admit of
calumnies.
Yeah,
basically, calumnies basically means rumors. You know what I mean?
against
From
others.
allegations.
This temper of his not disposing him to meddle with public affairs and want of spirit occasioned him to appear to spectators to be degenerate and unmanly.
So pretty much, Hyrcanus, I'm just asking, like, he was pretty much like, man,
He
what
wasn't
you saying ain't
listening
really
to
true.
it. Yeah, he wasn't listening to it, and so he appeared to be. It says degenerate. That basically means someone that's inferior of his ancestry. You see what I'm saying? Like, say for instance, if I, had a birth defect or something like that, well, I'd be degenerate of my ancestry because my pedigree is strong. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So basically, they're saying they basically like, man, this dude right here is just he weak. He ain't like his forefathers that are ready to go to war. Because again, the Hasmonean dynasty came from the Maccabean revolt.
Mm-hmm.
And his great grandfather was
Simon.
Wasami.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep, Wasami. Go ahead, Doc.
While Aristobulus was of a contrary temper, an active man, and one of a great and generous soul.
Keep going, Doc.
Since therefore Antipater saw that Hyrcanus did not attend to what he said, he never ceased, day by day, to charge fiend crimes upon Aristobulus.
And you see that word fame, and I want to say either first or second Peter's, and they use that word to describe the words of the false prophets. Feigned words means fake words or false words. You see what I'm saying?
No value.
Words of no value, like the Kahan said. Go ahead, Doc.
And to calumniate him before him as if he had a mind to kill him. And so, by urging him perpetually, he advised him and persuaded him to fly to Aretas, the king of Arabia, and promised that if he would comply with his advice, he would also himself assist him and go with him. When Hyrcanus heard this, he said that it was for his advantage to fly away to Aretas. Now Arabia is a country that borders upon Judea. However, Hyrcanus sent Antipater first to the king of Arabia in order to receive assurances from him that when he should come in the manner of a supplicant to him, he would not deliver him up to his enemies.
So when it says fly to Arabia, that's really going and it's stating to make alliance with Arabia. That's what that means, and that's what they did. They Hyrcanus and Antipater, they made an alliance with what's my man name? Aretas. They made an alliance with them to take down Aristobulus. You see what I'm saying? Go ahead,
And real quick, I just want to make a point too, man. It's a spirit because Herod, which is the son of Antipater, his wife was King Aretas' daughter. So that pact that they made with Aretas after the Hasmonean kingdom went down, Antipater and Aldunians and the Nabateans still had that link together with the family tie.
That makes sense.
You know,
So Herod's wife was an Arabian. Right?
Herod had multiple wives.
He had like 10 wives.
Well, I guess
the ones you talking about.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the when you read in the history, the secular history, one of his wives was the daughter of King Aretas, which is him.
Who Antipater made the pact
with Hyrcanus back before Herod was born.
Okay.
So Aretas had to have been younger at this time before. You know what I'm saying?
So I'm asking though. So this is who Aretas is, who Antipater made the pact with to come up against Aristobulus.
Exactly.
Gotcha. I'm just trying to follow the.
That's 100% right.
Yep. You're right. You got it, bro. Go ahead, Doc.
This is like a movie, bro.
I know.
I'm surprised they ain't came out with one yet.
I'm gonna dissect those names because that's where you really get the meat. You have to really look at those names.
Right. Then you look at a lot of those jakes that was dispersed and they have those names, but you realize that throughout the diaspora, they pretty much got those names, you know.
Bro, this thing,
Intermingling.
this thing of ours takes an immense amount of faith.
Yes.
Because
It's awesome.
we've been everywhere, bro.
Yeah.
We've been mixing, mingling. The nobles of our people mixing, mingling.
Man.
Like,
Bro, it's like when we was talking that one night, you know what I'm saying, like maybe like a couple months ago, we was just talking like, bro, it's crazy because this here is just like what, like 200 years, 300 years, bro, and all this is taking place within this time frame, bro. Like the Hasmonean, like you read about the Hasmonean kingdom very, briefly in the Maccabees, but behind the scenes, after John Maccabeus, Simon, and Jonathan and John Hyrcanus, bro, it was still a lot of stuff taking place.
yeah.
Before Yahushua was born, which made his ministry so immense to wake up the Gentiles.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's more than just picking up the Bible and just reading it, bro. Like we have to literally become historians in this, bro, and really understand what we read, bro.
Right.
And the history behind it. When you have when you understand the history behind it, that helps you understand the prophecies. You know what I'm saying? It helps you get a better understanding of the prophecies of what Yahushua was saying and why he was saying it. You see what I'm saying? I don't want to segue.
Nah, you good. You good, huh? Let's go back
Y'all
to
going
that.
in, bro.
Let's go back to that, yeah.
It says, so Antipater, having received such assurances, returned to Hyrcanus to Jerusalem. A while afterward, he took Hyrcanus and stole out of the city by night and went a great journey and came and brought him to the city called Petra, where the palace of Aretas was.
Wow.
We're all thinking the same thing.
That's right. But see
Petra.
but see, who was ruling that area at that time?
Was it Jake?
Nope.
Ham?
No, you had the Arabians.
Yeah, the Arabians.
Oh, okay.
He just told you right there that Aretas was ruling.
And as he was a very familiar friend of that king, he persuaded him to bring back Hyrcanus into Judea. And this persuasion he continued every day without any intermission. He also proposed to make him presents on that account. At length he prevailed with Aretas in his suit. Moreover, Hyrcanus promised him that when he had been brought thither and had received his kingdom, he would restore that country and those 12 cities which his father Alexander had taken from the Arabians, which were these: Medeba, Nabala, Ligas, Tharbasa, Agala, Athoni, Zoar, Arone, Marsa, Ruda, Lusa, and Oruba, if I'm saying those correct.
No, you got it, bro. Yep. So they made a. So you had Hyrcanus, Antipater, make a pact with the Arabian or the Ishmaelite. You know what I'm saying? King. What's one of the name? Aretas. You know.
Right.
And an incentive that he gave, Aretas to basically become allies with him is he was going to give them territories that his father Alexander took over. You see, so then you had it to where the civil war began to happen, and they got so bloody to where you had Pompey had to intervene. You see what I'm saying?
So this is that's like 60 BC or something like that?
Yeah, when Pompey that's around 44.
Yeah. About 44 to 50.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because Pompey was alive around the same time Julius Caesar was.
Yep.
Was on the
They
same.
was in the triumvirate together. Him, Crassus.
Yep.
They had a triumvirate rulership.
That's right. That's right.
So you definitely
I gotta research that thing.
Come on.
Assassin's Creed, baby.
Can we read a little bit on chapter 2? In chapter 2, this is about the Civil War, and then
I'll read it.
Come on. Yeah.
Chapter 2 it says how Aretas and Hyrcanus made an expedition against Aristobulus and besieged Jerusalem, and how Scaurus, the Roman general, raised a siege concerning the death of Onias. It says, after these promises had been given to Aretas, he made an expedition against Aristobulus with an army of 50,000 horse and foot, and beat him in the battle. And when after that victory, it says, and when after that victory, many went over to Hyrcanus as deserters, Aristobulus was left desolate and fled to Jerusalem. Upon which the king of Arabia took all his army and made an assault upon the temple and besieged Aristobulus therein, the people still supporting Hyrcanus and assisting him in the siege, while none but the priests continued with Aristobulus. So Aretas united the forces of the Arabians and of the Jews together and pressed on the siege vigorously. As this happened at the time when the feast of unleavened bread was celebrated. You notice how a lot of times it happens at Passover, and the reason why that happens is because they know that all Jake is gonna come to Jerusalem at one spot.
Jake don't ever change, man. Jake could go to like think about it. Jake could go to the club and fight somebody they've been having beef with in the neighborhood. It's just like, why ain't you fighting in the neighborhood? Well, now I'm waiting till you go to the
right. Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point.
And that's Jake. Jake is fighting at the Passover.
God damn.
We want everybody to see. Yeah.
Niggas, man.
We're
Bro,
gonna hit them niggas.
always jack the spot up, man.
Or like at a Friday night football game.
Yeah.
Fought the whole week.
Yep.
Week. But you know, get the nigga at the football
Yeah.
game.
That just remind me of a story, man, real quick. Like back when I was in high school, this nigga named C-Rob used to always mess with us, man. And every time a homeboy, man, yeah, we gonna go to the party bar, man. C-Rob gonna be there, we gonna get him. Like, bro, why we just do this shit at another time, bro? Like, we trying to get up on some hoes. Yeah. It's just every time it just makes sense, like what you said, bro. It never fails with Jake, bro.
Jake is a piece of work. We a piece of work,
Yeah, we gonna get to make a pass over.
Yes, Jake, bro. Ain't up the Passover.
It was Jake. It was thousands
Bro,
of people there, bro.
50,000 troops beefing at the Passover. Hard,
That's crazy, man.
you know? Ridiculous, man. Go ahead,
I'm gonna read it again. It says, as this happened at the time when the Feast of Unleavened Bread was celebrated, which we call the Passover, the principal men among the Jews left the country and fled into Egypt. Now
So the nobles that actually fled into Egypt, because again, we gotta understand this was a war, man. Just how you have diplomats might flee out of the country in time of war. That's what was going on at this particular time. You see what I'm saying? Go ahead.
It says, now there was one whose name was Onias, a righteous man he was, and beloved of the Most High, who in a certain drop.
This is kind of veering off, but this is just interesting. Shalom. This is just this interesting. Basically story showing you the wickedness of Jake, man. You see what I'm saying? Go ahead up.
It says, who in a certain drought had prayed to the Most High to put an end to the intense heat, in whose prayers the Most High had heard and had sent them rain. Dang, this man had hid himself because he saw that this sedition would last a great while. However, they brought him to the Jewish camp and desired that as by his prayers he had once put an end to the drought, so he would in like manner make imprecations on Aristobulus.
Imprecations means curses. So they called Onias in to put curses on Aristobulus. Go ahead,
I'm gonna read that. Yeah, man. I'm gonna read code because the priest at that time was pretty much on Aristobulus' side.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna read that part again. It says, however, they brought him to the Jewish camp and desired that as by his prayers he had once put an end to the drought, so he would in like manner make imprecations on Aristobulus and those of his faction.
That's right. And again, imprecations means curses or invoking curses. Go ahead up.
It says, and when upon his refusal and the excuses that he made, he was still by the multitude compelled to speak. He stood up in the midst of them and said, O Yahweh, the King of the whole world,
Since those that stand now with me are thy people, and those that are besieged are also thy priests, I beseech thee that thou wilt neither hearken to the prayers of those against thee, nor bring to effect what these pray against those. Whereupon such wicked Jews as stood about him, as soon as he had made this prayer, stoned him to death. Damn,
You
bro.
see how serious this was?
He didn't want to pray over it.
That he was like, look,
I ain't with
I'm
that.
not with. We are one people. Look, if you don't hear the person that's praying and don't answer the prayers of these people, you know what I'm saying, that's putting curses on Aristobulus, and for that he was stoned. But that just shows you how much enmity there was between us at that time, man.
Right.
Like when people hear about the Sadducees and the Pharisees, those sects was like, that was serious, man. To the point to where it caused a civil war, and so the civil war continued on, and eventually Pompey had to get involved. Now, if you can jump to chapter 3,
Paragraph 3 or chapter 3? My bad. Okay.
Chapter 3.
Chapter 3?
Chapter 3, and you can start at you can start at 1.
Okay, gotcha. All right, I'm gonna read the little top part. It says, "How Aristobulus and Hyrcanus came to Pompey." How Aristobulus and Hyrcanus came to Pompey in order to argue who ought to have the kingdom, and how upon the flight of Aristobulus to the fortress Alexandrium, Pompey led his army against him and ordered him to deliver up the fortresses whereof he had possessed. So, paragraph 1, it says, "A little after Pompey came to Damascus and marched over Cilicia, at which time there came ambassadors to him from all Syria and Egypt and out of Judea also, for Aristobulus has sent him a great present, which was a golden vine of the value of 500 talents. Now Strabo of Cappadocia mentioned..."
And that's very expensive, bro. You look up what how much 500 talents was. It's millions of dollars that he gave to Pompey, basically to rule, over Judea, man. And I'm emphasizing these things because when we think of Judea, we think of it like a small city. No, this was a huge city, huge territory, man. His own country at the time.
Yep. And when you think about it too, with the like what Marcelo was going into with the temple. The temple at that time was like the central bank,
right,
of that whole region in the Middle East. So when people would travel through, you would have to transfer your funds in the bank to get whatever currency that you're trying to get. So the temple that's why the temple was so heavily coveted after. Also too, they knew that our power wouldn't deal with us if they can get in there in the temple and ramshack it and destroy it. That lets us know that Yahweh Shah was with us. But also too, that region, that's why it's such a coveted region, because everything has to flow through that area for traffic. It says, "Now Strabo of Cappadocia mentions this present in these words: There came also an embassage out of Egypt, and a crown of the value of 4,000 pieces of gold. And out of Judea there came another, whether you call it a vine or a garden, they call the thing terapole, the delight."
So both parties were sending basically gifts to Pompey for him to back them in order for them to be ruler of Judea. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Doc.
It says, however, we ourselves saw that present reposited at Rome in the temple of Jupiter Capitolinus with this inscription: "The gift of Alexander, the king of the Jews." It was valued at 500 talents, and the report is that Aristobulus, the governor of the Jews, sent it.
500 talents, man. That's millions of dollars that he sent, that Aristobulus sent, in order to basically induce Pompey to back him.
Right.
Because at the time, Rome was
was beginning to pop.
Rome was the thing going, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
That was during coming up into the time of Pax Romana.
Yep.
Was like around 40.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pax Romana.
Because I don't think that I don't think that Caesar was around quite yet, was he?
He probably was
think
around,
so.
but maybe
He was
wasn't-
around,
wasn't-
but
I
it was
don't think he was in power yet, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because actually Pompey was a little older than
A
Caesar.
little bit older.
Yeah, they were around
That's
the
what I'm
same
saying.
time.
They were around the same time because, like I said, they had a triumphal rulership. It was Pompey, Crassus, and Caesar.
Con.
But Pompey was first, though.
Con.
Because he was like a great general at first, too.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And then Caesar worked his way up.
Same
Yeah.
thing. Caesar was like that young gunner.
Mm-hmm.
He came up later.
Yep. And then even too, like what stood out to me in this paragraph was the fact that how Aristobulus got that money from the temple, and then that temple got sent to Rome, and that money that was from the temple went to the temple of Jupiter.
Wow.
See what I'm saying? So man,
Yeah, this shit, man, bro, this is interesting, bro. I'm gonna have to go back. And
Yeah, I got to go back and get all
It's
this.
good
down.
stuff.
Con.
it goes in. Want me to continue out?
Yeah, continue up.
All right, paragraph 2. And a little time afterward came ambassadors again to him, Antipater from Hyrcanus, and Nicodemus from Aristobulus, which last also accursed such as had been taken. Let me read that again.
Basically, it's going to how they took bribes. You know, Josephus is kind of convoluted how he writes sometimes.
Yes.
But it's really going into how, what's her name, Sacrius. He took basically the what's the word I'm looking for? Bribes. You know what I'm saying?
He was like an ambassador for like Pompey. It sounded like
He-
that's who he sent.
Well, he was. I'm thinking he was a general, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, probably a high rank in something because he sent to go collect the bribe
Con.
on behalf of Pompey.
You know what? I read both of these, but the one that's Googled is more condensed and it's easier. Here, read this one up. That
So-
Rome intervention.
It sounded like it was just like a bidding war to get the backing of Rome, pretty much.
Exactly.
That's
Right.
exactly
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's exactly what it
This
was.
is exactly what's going on. You know
Yup.
what I'm saying? It was a bidding war to see who was going to get backed by Rome
Yup.
in order for them to rule.
Kind of. It says Roman intervention in Wikipedia. It says during the Civil War, the Roman general Pompey defeated the kingdoms of Pontus and the Seleucids. He sent his deputy Marcus Aemilius Scaurus to take possession of Seleucid Syria. As the Hasmoneans were allies of the Romans, both brothers appealed to Scaurus, each endeavoring by gifts and promises to win him over to his side. Scaurus, moved by a gift of 400 talents, decided in favor of Aristobulus and ordered Aretas to withdraw his army.
That's right. We just read that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Go ahead up.
During his retreat, the Nabateans suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of Aristobulus.
They had the Romans backing.
Yeah, the Romans backing.
Man, that's crazy. So the king of the Nabateans pretty much came through and beat down Aristobulus before.
Yup.
And then the Romans like, nah, nigga, you gotta go. And it was like, bet, all right,
So-
we gonna leave. And then Aristobulus came back behind him like, fuck you, nigga, and just started just,
Yeah.
you know.
Being there.
So Antipater's plan then don't seem like it worked out then.
It's gonna
Right,
work
yeah,
out.
I know you're
Antipater is a demon.
I
bro.
know he's gonna keep going.
It's gonna go out. Because you gotta think Antipater, he really in the back. He in the background.
He wanna go with the winning squad, bro.
Exactly. He's more like
he can flip side. Yeah.
he more like shoot whatever.
Because you gotta remember, Antipas was down with Rome regardless.
Mhm.
Right.
So whoever Rome going back, Antipas was going back.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
And remember what we read in Josephus, his goal was to put his son in a good situation. And that's precisely what he did.
Bro, that's crazy.
You know what I'm saying?
He's just playing both
That's
sides,
crazy,
man.
bro.
Yeah.
Esau, bro. God damn,
Yep.
bro.
Esau.
That nigga
Esau
be
had-
there, bro.
That
Nigga never just a nigga just there.
Yeah, bro.
Right
What's
there,
fucked
that's
up?
him, bro.
What's fucked up is that's what he's doing now.
Yeah.
We see all these skirmishes, things of that nature. That's Esau setting up proxy wars.
Yup.
Exactly.
Yep.
Same-
Venezuela.
He's trying to jump on
Setting up
whoever got the
coups and
best
shit.
Yep. He's trying to jump on
crazy.
board who got the best position.
Whoever got it,
Yup.
he's a leech.
Man, that's why scripture said, man, there's nothing new under the sun. This nigga Esau gonna keep. He ain't never stopped, bro. He ain't never stopped. Man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm gonna continue. It says when Pompey arrived in Syria in 63 BC, both brothers and a third party that desired the removal of the entire dynasty sent their delegates to Pompey, who, however, delayed the decision. He favored Hyrcanus II over Aristobulus II, deeming the elder weaker brother and more reliable ally of the Roman Empire.
Remember what we just read in Josephus, how people regarded Herodean as the weaker brother. And Pompey, he thought the same. Go ahead, Doc.
Pompey defeated the Jewish armies in multiple battles and took the fortress of Judea. Aristobulus and his sons Alexander and Antagonus were captured in 63 BC. Aristobulus, suspicious of Pompey, entrenched himself in the fortress of Alexandrium, but when the Romans defeated his army again, he surrendered and undertook to deliver Jerusalem over to them. However, since many of his followers were unwilling to open the gates, the Romans besieged and captured the city by force, badly damaging the city and the temple. Hyrcanus was restored as high priest, but deprived of political authority. Aristobulus II escaped in 57 BC, instigating rebellion against Rome in Judea until he was finally holed up by Aulus Gabinius, consul of the Roman province of Syria, and Macareus. Mark Antony, commander of the cavalry under Gabinius, led several men to scale Aristobulus' fortifications and subdue his forces. Taken prisoner, Aristobulus was released by Julius Caesar in 49 BC in order to turn Judea against Pompey. Dang, so yeah, Julius Caesar.
So they was having a proxy war too.
Yeah, they would get into it too. Him and Pompey would get into it, and eventually Pompey was assassinated.
He was killed
by the I want to say the Ptolemaic king had him assassinated.
It was Cleopatra's brother that had him assassinated. It was Ptolemy. Yeah, but pretty much that was to a degree that was under the works of Julius Caesar anyway.
That's right, but you got to remember too. At that time, you see that Antipater, he was still making good with the Roman Empire to the point to where his son was basically made the governor over Judea. So I'm gonna go back to this. I'm gonna go back to the study Bible. You know, I don't want to go on too long. It says during the years of strife between Aristobulus II and Hyrcanus II, the Idumean governor Antipater took a lively interest in the politics of Judea. Antipater was bitterly opposed to Aristobulus, partly through fear and partly because of his friendship with Hyrcanus. It appears that Hyrcanus relied much on Antipater, and that he was virtually the power behind the throne of Judea. The Jews resented the influence of Antipater almost as much as they smarted under Roman sovereignty. So we didn't like being on the Romans or Jake dealing with this Edomite. Although the Idumeans had been incorporated into the Jewish state by John Hyrcanus, they had never been assimilated, and ancient rivalries were never forgotten. See that? So in the crisis which followed the murder of Julius Caesar, Antipater and his sons shown loyalty to the new regime of Crassus by zealously collecting tribute taxes. Herod, a son of Antipater, was given the title procurator, and I don't know what that means.
That's like a senator.
Governor or senator.
Basically a governor. I thought so. I wanted to look it up before, But
Like
somebody,
Pilate was procurator of Judea.
yeah, can somebody look it up? I'm just curious.
An agent represent others in a court of law in countries retaining Roman civil law.
Something like that, governor.
Like an ambassador in a sense.
Yeah, like
Yep.
Pilate.
Yeah, it's a treasury officer in a province of the Roman Empire. It's
Treasury officer,
Mm,
like a member of Senate or something.
that's right. So when Anthony defeated Brutus and Crassus at Philippi, Asia again fell in the hands of a new regime. Herod, however, quickly changed loyalties and bribed his way in favor with Anthony. The eastern part of the once mighty Persian Empire was occupied by a people known as Parthians, who had never been subdued by Rome. In 41 BC, they attacked Jerusalem and made Antigonus, son of Aristobulus II, both king and high priest. Herod, the son of Antipater, with them putting him in, that rulership seat, that was going to take his power. So Herod the Great, he had to do something,
Right.
and he was able to influence war and take over Judea and become the king of Judea. You know what I'm saying? Herod, the son of Antipater, who had inherited the throne of Judea at the throne of Hyrcanus, was forced to flee to Rome. There he won the favor of Anthony and was officially named King of the Jews. Although the title would have meaning only after the Parthians were driven out. Herod returned to Judea with Roman arms and triumphantly entered Jerusalem as king. I want to get this account. I'd like to get that account in Josephus, man, to see how long, just to show you brothers how long we fought. And that'll be it for the class, man.
We going in, bro.
Yeah,
I gotta re-go over this with the Josephus.
We gotta go over. Yeah.
If I could just, here we go. Now this is chapter 16, verse 1. How Herod, when he married, Amarimine, that was a Jake.
Right.
He was a Hasmonean flock. Took Jerusalem with the assistance of, man, can you read, brother? I mean, reading all of them.
I got
throat
you.
is
It
dry.
says, chapter 16, it says how Herod, when he had married Marimene, took Jerusalem with the assistance of Sosius by force, and how the government of the Asmoneans was put to an end.
Mm-hmm.
It says, paragraph 1, it says, after the wedding was over, came Sosius through Phoenicia, having sent out his army before him over the midland part. He also, who was their commander, came himself with a great number of horsemen and footmen. The king also came himself from Samaria, and brought with him no small army, besides that which was there before, for they were about 30,000.
Yeah, that's so. Basically saying that he didn't bring a small band, a small army. It says that he came with no small army, so he was deep. Basically, what he's saying, like a better term, he was deep.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Doc.
It says, and they all met together at the walls of Jerusalem, and encamped at the north wall of the city, being now an army of 11 legions, armed men on foot, and 6,000 horsemen with other auxiliaries out of Syria.
So that's why it's like different infantries, like
Yep.
the legions.
It's about
There's
80,000
different
men.
bands, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Because the legion, what, about 10,000?
7,000.
Or 7,000?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh man! So it says the generals were two: Sosius, sent by Antony to assist Herod, and Herod on his own account, in order to take the government from Antigonus, who was declared an enemy to Rome, and that he might himself be king, according to the decree of the Senate. Now the Jews that were enclosed within the walls of the city fought against Herod with great alacrity and zeal, for the whole nation was gathered together.
So they was fighting hard against Herod the Great. They didn't want Herod the Great to rule over them.
Wow.
Go ahead, Doc.
They also gave out many prophecies about the temple and many things agreeable to the people, as if the Most High would deliver them out of the dangers they were in.
So they was all on one accord.
And you know what's crazy? Yahushua came right after this, man. So
Yep.
all the prayers and all that came into effect, but they didn't want to receive it.
They were prophesying.
Wow.
They were prophesying. They were letting know that this place, that they were going to fall.
Makes you think of Luke, the first chapter, where it talks about how this child was going to be born. In Luke 1, if somebody want to grab it real quick, Baba Shah. Luke 1, I want to say you can start at like 60. 60.
That's mine.
Luke 1 and like 63 or something like that, and you kind of read down.
Yeah, this is St. Luke 1 in 63.
You just read down.
Kind of, it says, and he asked for a writing table and wrote, saying, his name is Yachanan. And they marveled all, and his mouth was opened immediately, and his tongue loosed, and he spake and praised the Most High.
Go ahead.
And fear came on all that dwelt round about them, and all these sayings were noised abroad throughout all the hill country of Judea. And all they that heard them laid them up in their hearts, saying, what manner of child shall this be?
Go ahead.
And the hand of the Lord was with him. And his father Zacharias was filled with the Holy Ghost, and prophesied, saying, blessed be the Lord power of Israel, for he hath visited and redeemed his people, and hath raised up an horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David.
Talking about Yahushua. Go ahead.
As he spake by the mouth of his holy prophets, which have been since the world began.
Right.
That we should be saved from our enemies.
That we should be saved from our enemies. Go ahead.
And from the hand of all that hate
And
us.
from the hand of all that hate us, and that's what was happening before that time. You know what I'm saying? So, like you said, Yahushua came right after.
That's right.
That's as it was prophesied.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And there's a very strong possibility Zechariah was alive during that time, or at least his father was alive.
That's
all
very,
this was
that's,
going
that's,
on.
that's, so, that's very true.
It was fresh in his mind, and he experienced
true.
it personally, probably.
Because this happened with like 41 BC. You know what I'm saying? So it's very plausible. You know, and that word, what's it? Alacrity?
Yep, alacrity. Yep.
It means alacrity. It means brisk and cheerful readiness. And that goes in beautifully what the brother had brought out, that verse he had brought out. Because they had a cheerfulness and readiness, you know, to receive the prophecies and the fulfillment of it. You know.
Wow.
And they showed that same zeal when they was coming up against Herod the Great. They was fighting against him. They didn't want Herod the Great to rule over them. You know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and continue. It says they had also carried off what was out of the city, that they might not leave anything to afford sustenance either for men or for beasts. And by private robberies, they made the want of necessaries greater. When Herod understood this, he opposed ambushes in the fittest places against their private robberies, and he sent legions of armed men to bring in provisions in that from remote places, so that in a little time they had great plenty of provisions. Now the 3 bulwarks were easily erected, because so many hands were continued at work upon them. For it was summertime, and there was nothing to hinder them in raising their works, neither from the air nor from the workmen.
Just for edification, I look at that word bulwarks. So I looked it up. And I forgot what it meant, but I want to look it up again because looking it up will help. A bulwark is a defense wall. So that's what they were going into. You know, they had 3 bulwarks erected, defense walls erected. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, pretty much like what a bulwark is pretty much something they will build, whereas the people who were doing the besieging, the army that was doing the besieging, can go in this engine that would actually help them get over the wall. You know, because the walls were high, and like you can just climb it. You know, they had to build these things, whereas once it was connected to the wall, it gave them easy access just to get over the wall.
It goes to those provisions that they were bringing out.
It says, my bad, that's what
No, go ahead.
Okay, it says, so they brought their engines to bear and shook the walls of the city and tried all manner of ways to get in. Yet did not those within discover any fear, but they also contrived not a few engines to oppose their engines withal.
So those bulwarks that our people made were pretty damn good because they weren't able to get in for days. You see what I'm saying? Go ahead, Doc.
It says they also sallied out and burnt not only those engines that were not yet perfected, but those that were. And when they came hand to hand, their attempts were not less bold than those of the Romans, though they were behind them in skill.
So when they broke down the defense walls, when it came to hand combat, it's telling you right there that our people were just as good, if not better when it came to fighting than the Romans. They had traditional army training, which is pretty impressive, especially if you go into the history of the Roman army, man.
Right.
You know, there's a reason why Rome was so damn big. That army was crushing people, destroying people, bro. Right. Go ahead, Art.
It says here. It says they also erected new works when YouTube video started playing. My bad. It says they also erected new works when the former were ruined. And making mines underground, they met each other and fought there.
Damn, so they was fighting on the ground. Both of them were trying to make ways to get, one was trying to get out of the city, one was trying to get in the city. They meet, they fight. It's a good movie, bro.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. She gonna punish her or something.
Bro, hey, that music started playing. I was like, oh shit.
Hey, perfect timing, bro.
That mother started playing by herself, bro.
Hey,
Bro, it's your spirit, man.
YouTube video, man. It says, in making use of brutish courage rather than of prudent. It says in making use of brutish courage rather than of prudent valor, they persisted in this war to the very last. And they did while a mighty army lay round about them, and while they were distressed by famine and want of necessaries. From this happened to be a sabbatic year.
So that was an extra year, a sabbatic year. Remember how we went into Otter 1 and 2? Adar 1 and 2?
Yeah, I remember that.
So that sabbatic year has to be going to how they added an extra month.
Right.
That added 2.
Yep. I remember that. I sure do.
Sabbatic year. You know what I'm saying?
I never knew that.
Yep. 4 because how we keep how Esau basically make sure that the time is not influenced by the seasons changing. He adds the leap years and also the changing of times.
Right.
But for us to combat that, we would add an extra month.
Right.
Add a 2.
Yeah.
And some years it would be like that.
Yeah.
Mind if I just land back on you? And that definitely makes a lot of sense because when you definitely implied that Julius Caesar was around and died. And remember the Julian calendar existed around that time, which consisted of an extra day during that week. So that Adar 2 had to be implemented because like the deacon that went into, the years are all types of messed up. And Jay got to follow the customs and still keeping their own, but it was all types of confusion going on. So that makes a lot of sense.
It says, the first that scaled the walls were 20 chosen men. The next were Sosius the centurions. For the first wall was taken in 40 days,
and the second in 15 more.
That's right. So the first wall took 40 days for it to get down, for it to be taken down. Then the second wall took 15. This is on top of them being starved out. Because remember earlier it says they were trying to sneak in provisions.
Yeah.
It says that basically Herod cut the provisions off, and that's what famines began to happen. Go ahead, Doc.
When some of the cloisters that were about the temple were burnt, which Herod gave out to have been burnt by antagonists in order to expose them to the hatred of the Jews. And when the outer court of the temple and the lower city were taken, the Jews fled into the inner court of the temple and into the upper city. But now fearing lest the Romans should hinder them from offering their daily sacrifices to the Most High, they sent an embassy and desired that they would only permit them to bring in beasts for sacrifices, which Herod granted, hoping they were going to yield.
So it was making negotiations with one another. It's like, look, man, let us bring in some cattle to make our sacrifices. Herod allowed them to do so in hopes that they would stop what they were doing. Like, look, okay, we do this, and they gonna, the war is gonna stop. But to Herod's surprise, that didn't mean anything to the Israelites. They continued to fight, and that enraged Herod. Go ahead, Doc.
Kind. It says, but when he saw that they did nothing of what he supposed, but bitterly opposed him in order to preserve the kingdom to antagonists, he made an assault upon the city and took it by storm.
Mm-hmm.
And now all parts were full of those that were slain by the rage of the Romans at the long duration of the siege, and by the zeal of the Jews that were on Herod's side.
So you had Selite Jews that was on Herod's side.
Man. Goodness gracious.
Them niggas always exist.
Them niggas always existed.
Whole ass niggas.
That's like the monkey ass niggas in the MAGA hats.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
That nigga. You don't think that nigga is that's gonna be a nigga that's gonna be with them?
Yep.
Point Uncle Ruckus.
Us out.
The other dude was talking about Black American. He a Black American. You remember that?
Yeah.
He just came out.
Yeah.
Coon.
That nigga. Yeah. Yep.
I got a quick precept.
Go ahead. Huh?
Just this is a different time period, but the same thing going on. First Maccabees 1:11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, sayings, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
So you're gonna have niggas out there that have totally said forget about being a Hebrew Israelite. Even people who knew at the time that he was Hebrew Israelites are like, nah, I don't want to be that. I want to be a Grecian.
Yep.
And that's those people, them same spirits are here today.
Niggas that fell out amongst us and all that.
Yep.
Yeah, straight up.
It says, who were not willing to leave one of their adversaries alive. So they were murdered continually in the narrow streets and in the houses by crowds. And as they were flying to the temple for shelter, and there was no pity taken of either infant or the aged, nor did they spare so much as the weaker sex.
So you women,
They were all getting
women, children, elderly, they was all destroyed by the Romans.
Yep.
Into the wicked seeds of our people, man. The niggas that who are straight sellouts, straight coons.
That's the judgment of the Heavenly Father, man. There ain't nothing new under the sun, so that same thing, that same wrath, that same wrath is coming for them people that don't want to get right, man.
Yeah.
I'm talking about you. The olive branch has been extended. You know what I'm saying? Especially with this whole media thing and all that stuff. But yeah, man. At the end of the day, everybody gonna have that decision to make. You know what I'm saying? And some people gonna make the right decision, some people ain't. But that type of wrath that y'all reading about, you know what I'm saying? That's 2,000 years ago. How much more today?
Right.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So, something that never been seen before.
Nope. It says, nay, although the king sent about and besought them to spare the people, yet nobody restrained their hand from slaughter,
But as if they were a company of madmen, they fell upon persons of all ages without distinction. And then antagonists, without regard to either his past or present circumstances, came down from the citadel and fell down at the feet of Sosius, who took no pity of him in the change of his fortune, but insulted him beyond measure, and called him Antigone, i.e., woman and not a man. Damn, he was talking shit to him.
So the king, so you had the king even say, you know what, that's enough. You don't need to kill him anymore. The people were so zealous for killing Jake that they disregarded the king just to kill us. It got so bad that Antiochus came out of the synagogue just to save the people. Like, look, man, look at this old bitch ass.
Yeah, bro.
They made fun of him. Look at this bitch ass nigga.
Oh, bitch. Call him like he pretty much called him a bitch.
Yeah, he did.
You know what I'm saying?
He did. Yeah.
This is Ecclesiastes chapter 14, verse 5. It says, he that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods. Because, Jake is going to go and join with the heathen, and take down his own people. So there's nothing good is going to come out of it. Verse 6, it says, there is none worse than he that envieth himself, and is a recompense of his wickedness.
The antagonist was wicked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Man. He took a fade, bro.
It says, yet did he not treat him as if he were a woman, but letting him go at liberty, but put him into bonds and kept him in close custody. Paragraph 3. And now Herod, having overcome his enemies, whose care was to govern these foreigners who had been his assistants, for the crowd of strangers rushed to see the temple and the sacred things in the temple. But the king thinking a victory to be more severe affliction than a defeat, if any of those things which it was not lawful to see should be seen by them, use entreaties and threatenings, and even sometimes force itself to restrain them. He also prohibited the ravage that he made in the city, and many times asked Sosius whether the Romans would empty the city both of money and men, and leave the king of the desert.
Hey, somebody should get Psalms 83, cause several Gentiles came to take us down, man.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? It got so bad. Basically, what he was saying was like, look, he told them, look, you gonna leave me with the empty city?
Yeah.
Cause they was taking so much.
He was asking for money. Like, man.
Like, bro, you taking all my goods. You supposed to be helping me take the city over.
Right.
You got a certain starting spot you want in Psalms 83, or you want to start at the top, or what?
You started, what is it, Psalms 83 and 3? Is that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is Psalms chapter 83, verse 3. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee, the tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites of Moab, and the Hagarenes, and Gebal, and Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Ashur also is joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot, Selah. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera and to Jabin at the brook of Kazan.
And that was really it on that,
Yeah.
first part.
Yep.
All them several nations came up against us, man. But you see, basically in this setting, it was just those two first, the first two that was named, the Ishmaelites and the Edomites, man.
Yep.
Came up against us.
Yep. Damn. Very interesting, because they the same ones that bought us in the transatlantic slave trade too.
Yeah, I'm saying the Esau is Japhet.
Hey, y'all, can you jump to verse, paragraph 4? And that'll be it.
Okay.
Just jump to that, and then that'll be it. I don't want to go too long.
Paragraph 4 says, "This destruction befell the city of Jerusalem when Marcus Agrippa and Canius Gallus were consuls at Rome on the 185th Olympiad, on the 3rd month, on the solemnity of the feast of the fast, as if a periodical revolution of calamities had returned since that which befell the Jews under Pompey. For the Jews were taken by him on the same day, and this was after 27 years' time. So when Sosius had dedicated a crown of gold to God, he marched away from Jerusalem and carried antagonists with him in bonds to Antony. But Herod was afraid lest antagonists should be kept in prison only by Antony, and that when he was carried to Rome by him, he might get his cause to be heard by the Senate, and might demonstrate, as he was himself of the royal blood, and Herod but a private man."
Mm-hmm. To Herod wasn't of royal seed. Hey, what's that in Ecclesiastes? I've seen 10:6. That's what that's going into.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're going to. He was but a private man. He wasn't a man of blood of nobility.
Statue.
Yeah.
You want that read?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is Ecclesiastes 10:7. It says, I can start at 6. Folly has set a great dignity, and the rich sit in a low place. I have seen servants upon horses, and princes walking as servants upon the earth. He that diggeth the pit shall fall into it, and whoso breaketh an edge, a serpent shall bite him.
And that's what happened to us.
Yep.
And they all went back to doing, but because of what? Us not falling after our way,
right?
And going into the way of the heathen, going in bed with the heathen.
Mm-hmm.
We was taking over.
And that ties right there. We read earlier in Sarah, the 12th chapter. Who shall pity a charmer? I believe we read that earlier, right?
Yeah, we did. Shit, crazy, man.
Making a covenant with the devil, man.
Yep.
It says, "In Herod but a private man, that therefore it belonged to his sons, however, to have the kingdom on account of the family they were of, in case he himself offended the Romans by what he had done. Out of Herod's fear of this, it was that he, by giving Antony a great deal of money, endeavored to persuade him to have antagonists slain, which if it were once done, he should be free from that fear. And thus did the government of the Asmoneans cease, 126 years after it was first set up. This family was a splendid and illustrious one, both on account of the nobility of their stock and of the dignity of the high priesthood, as also for the glorious actions their ancestors had performed for our nation. But these men lost the government by their dissensions one with another, and it came to Herod, the son of Antipater, who was of no more than a vulgar family and of no eminent extraction, but one that was subject to other kings. And this is what history tells us was the end of the Asmonean family. Man.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Hey, man.
You got the time of your house side of us right there.
Unity is very important, brothers.
Yeah.
Unity is very important.
God.
Individuals build businesses. Family builds dynasties, man.
Straight up.
God.
That was an edifying class, man.
Absolutely.
It was like a movie, bro. Just
You gotta put it all together. That's why I was taking the notes just so I can go back and look in the names. But that makes sense why Yahweh Shah felt the way he felt about Herod. That line